Welcome to Rifles, Rods, and Respawns. On this podcast, I'm going to discuss me changing from a video game player and trying to get into the hunting world. Now, this has been going on. This is actually my second year. I hunted last year unsuccessfully, but it's been really interesting. Now, I'd like to start this episode out by going over last year. Well, maybe go back a little further and just give some background on me. So I'm 47 years old. I used to get into the outdoor stuff when I was a teenager. I've got a cousin who's really big into the outdoors. And when I was a teenager, I had moved in with my dad. And my cousin started getting me involved in the outdoors. So I did some small game hunting. He would take me deer hunting, but I never got anything. I got one rabbit when I was like 14, 15 years old. So then graduated, went into the Army Reserves. I finished that. When I got out, I went into factory work, and I've been working factories for 25 years. And if you do factory work, I was in the automotive industry, and it's 12 hours a day, 5, 6, 7 days a week. So you really don't have time for extracurricular activities on the weekends, and I just really put it in the back of my mind. I wasn't into it no more. But then about 7 years ago, I decided, I'm going to give this hunting thing another shot. And I went and got me a crossbow, and I bought a blind, and I set up, and I went maybe, 7 weekends. And then I was like, well, I didn't get shit, so I'm done. But then my cousin, now I live in Tennessee, he lives in Ohio. So my cousin had this farm, and he kept saying, come up here, get you a deer, come up here, get you a deer. So I got online, I bought all my license and all that. And then I went up there, and I spent a week at his house, and I got one deer. I got my first doe. It was just a little baby doe. It wasn't very big at all. I may have got maybe 20 pounds of meat. I mean, it was a small deer. And then I come back, and in Tennessee, there's all kinds of public land, but I'm not very diverse on access and all this public land. I didn't know the rules. I didn't know the locations. I just knew, hey, there's a spot here. It says WMA on it. You can hunt there if you buy the right permits. So I just got back out of it. I just lost the interest. And then year before last, I'd always watched hunting shows. Well, I'd always watched Meat Eater. I've watched some of the other hunting shows. I really don't care for them. It just, some of the personalities, like I don't have that kind of personality where jumping, hollering, hooting. I don't have that. But I watched Meat Eater, and the way that Ranella approaches the outdoors, it changed the way that I looked at it. Showing how to prepare the food on the episodes. Like he'll do an episode and he'll catch some fish. Then at the end of the episode, he's cooking that fish right there on the bank. I mean, it's cool. Anyway, so I've always watched that. And then about 2 years ago, I changed jobs. And I moved from where I was working 10 minutes from my house to now I've got an hour commute one way. So it's 2 hours a day of interstate. So a guy I worked with was talking about podcasts. And I had never listened to any podcast at all, ever. I'd heard that there were some podcasts out there, but I was like, well, yeah, 10-minute drive, I listened to the radio. So I started listening to the podcast on my drive to work and my drive home. And it just, I don't know, the more I listened to it, and it was so in depth because it's way more than that episode of hunting. It was just so in depth that they were going into the aspects of the hunt and talking to all these biologists and professionals. And it was just really cool to see, to hear that. And then, so I started listening and listening and listening. And then there was just this urge, to try. I'm going to try this again. But one of the big things that they're always talking about is time in the woods, time in the woods. So I downloaded the app Onyx and the TWRA app. Now on the TWRA app, it shows you all the WMAs that are around your area, like everything. It just shows them all. It shows access points on them, then, everything. So I downloaded the app, and then I opened it up, and I realized that I've got several just in my area. And I was like, oh, that's cool, So I downloaded the app, and I got all my permits, and then I just started going out there. And when I first started going out there, I was parking at this one access, and I was hiking all the way to another area. And I didn't even realize that there was an access point right at that other area that I spent. I know it was 45 minutes. It was 550 yards. I would hike all the way over there. And then one day I go around the corner. There's like this real thick patch of brush, and I go around it, and I see there's a parking pad there. And I was like, are you kidding me? I've been hiking all this time. So anyway, I downloaded Onyx. I downloaded the TWRA app, and I just started going out there. So I started with turkey season, even though I know I've watched a bunch of episodes, I've seen a bunch of people hunting, and turkey is probably one of the hardest. They always say, oh, their eyesight's incredible, they're incredible. Well, I'm here to tell you, it's very incredible. They can spot you at 100 yards if you're not hiding. I mean, they'll see you and they'll start booking. So I started with turkey season. Let me tell you what happened to me during turkey season. So I go in, I park at this access, and I walk down the gravel road because I always park. My truck's not 4-wheel drive, and the road's pretty rough. So I always park at the front where it's smooth, and then I hike down. So I start hiking down. I get all the way down to where I want to be, and then I cut off into the woods. I get in the woods maybe 70, 80 yards, and it's pitch dark. And I sat down, and I always seen on them shows that they got a crow call. So I went by me a crow call and everything. I'm telling you, I bought a lot of gear. I probably don't need half of it. But you watch these shows and they're like, oh, you got to have this. I'm like, okay, that's what I got to have. Remember, I'm brand new at this. So I hit the crow call, and I can hear a gobble. And I'm like, oh, that's what I'm talking about. That's my first turkey day. I'm going to get me a turkey on the first day ever. So I post up underneath a tree, and I wait, and the sun's just starting to come out. I mean, it's just barely daylight. I don't have to use my lamp no more to see. It's just daylight. And I got one of those pot calls with a striker because I tried that diaphragm. I cannot get that diaphragm to work. I don't know how they do that. Every time it just sounds like it don't do nothing. So anyway, I got this pot call. I started hitting with the striker. Beep, beep, beep. You know how it goes. And then all of a sudden I hear another pot call going off about 40 yards to my right. Another pot call going off about 80 yards in front of me. And then another one going off to my left. Another one behind me. And I'm like, are you telling me that I'm sitting in the middle of 7 people hunting. So anyway, I keep hitting that pop call. Then all of a sudden I start hearing this gobble coming back towards the road that I had walked in. I'm like, oh, that's what I'm talking about. So I wait a few minutes, probably 15 minutes. I hit that pop call again. Gobble, 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 gobble. I'm like, oh, yeah, that's what I'm talking about. This goes on for about 2.5 hours. Every 15, 20 minutes, I hit that pop call, that gobble, 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 gobble. I'm like, man, what is he doing over there? So I just wait and I wait and I wait. And then I hit that pop call. Boop, 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 boop. Gobble, 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 gobble. And then finally it just stops gobbling. And then I hit it, nothing. Hit it, nothing. So I sat there about another hour. And there's just nothing. So I'm like, all right, well, it's about 11:30 in the morning. I've been out there since 5. I'm like, yeah, I'm done. I'm getting hungry, you know. So I get up and I start walking back to my truck. I come out of the woods and I hit that access road. And on that access road, there's a thin line of pine trees that separates the WMA from the farm that's beside it. And it's a pretty good sized farm. And they got a big barn right there by the access road. And I start walking down that road and I hear gobble, 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 gobble. And I squat down and I look through those pine trees and there's a dog kennel on the side of that barn with turkeys in it. So the whole time I was hitting that pot call, I was calling that damn turkey that was in that dog kennel. And he was hollering back, but he couldn't get out because he's in a damn dog kennel. So anyway, that was my turkey season. I hunted every weekend. The closest that I did get close to a turkey. I'd actually been calling, no response, no response, no response. And then as I was leaving where I was posted up at, I stood up and I started walking and I couldn't remember exactly how I'd walked in because it had been, several hours. So I pull my cell phone out, I open up Onyx. I see where I'm going and I take a couple of steps because, you can change to where it points you in the direction. And I got my car marked. I take a couple of steps and then I hear the loudest noise I'd ever heard. It was like a helicopter taking off in front of me. And about 15 feet in front of me, this giant ass turkey come flying up out of the brush. I mean, it was so thick right there. But he come flying up out of the brush and flew away. And that's the closest that I got to getting a turkey last year. And then after turkey season, it was summertime. Well, late spring, early summer. So I didn't do any more hunting. Then I started back up in September with squirrel season. And I had seen some squirrels when I was turkey hunting. So I was like, all right. So I go out there. I went and bought me one of those GamPro or whatever, the high power pellet rifle. I bought one of those. I bought, just to give you an example, I bought that pellet rifle. I bought a shotgun for turkey season. I bought a deer rifle. Ain't even deer season yet, but I went ahead and bought a deer rifle. I got that hunting blind that I had from several years back. I got my crossbow that I had from several years back. The reason that I got the crossbow is because when I first started getting into hunting season, I could see that the seasons, it starts with bow season on deer season. It starts with bow, and then you can hunt with a bow all the way through the end of gun. So it's several months, not just a few weeks on this season, a few weeks on this season. It's several months that you can hunt with the same weapon. So I was like, well, that's the way to go. But I'm no bow hunter. That's a skill that I just don't have. Maybe in the future I'll get like that, but right now I am no bow hunter. So I got a crossbow. So I got that crossbow, that pellet rifle, shotgun, and a deer rifle. I went and bought hot weather camo, cool weather camo, cold weather camo. I've got boots. I went and I bought 2 different backpacks. One's a great big backpack where I could put all kinds of stuff in there, and then one's just a small backpack. I got a small game vest with the shotgun shell pockets. I bought all kinds of damn gear. And I've never even been out there seriously hunting. I just, hey, they got this cool gear. They got this gear. That's probably what I need. I'm telling you, I spent a fortune. So anyway, I didn't do any hunting or I didn't even go fishing over the summertime. When I changed jobs, it really messed with my sleep schedule because I had been day shift for my whole life, and then now I work thirds, so it really messed with me. And I was so sleepy all the time. I was dozing off in the middle of the day. Just really had a hard time adjusting to that. I'm 47. It's not like when you was 20, you could stay up all damn night, all day. It doesn't bother you at all. But at 47, it really makes a difference. So I had to really adjust to that. So anyway, so we go and then bow season starts. Now, when I was out there turkey hunting on this WMA that I hunt, I had covered a small section of it. It's huge. It's almost 3,000 acres. So I'd only covered a small section of it. So when I started bow hunting, I wanted to go to some different areas just to see. I had come across somebody's got a permanent stand up there, even though you're not supposed to. Somebody's got a permanent stand. So I was like, well, that stand wouldn't be there if the deer don't come through here. And then when I was turkey hunting, I'd seen a lot of deer tracks in this area, a lot of deer tracks in this area. And I was like, all right. So I kind of got a gist of where some deer are, but I had never come across the deer out there while I was turkey hunting. I didn't even jump one. So fall squirrel starts. I'm out there squirrel hunting, and I jump a spike. I'm walking down that same access road, and a spike comes stepping out on the road right in front of me. He sees me. He's actually drinking in a puddle. Then he looks up, he sees me, and then he takes off. And I was like, that's my first deer I'd seen out there. So I was like, yeah, I know there's deer out here. So bow season starts. Where do I start? Right where I seen that spike during squirrel season. So I sat out there, nothing. Changed several different spots, nothing. And then I'd watched a video or something. I can't remember how I seen it, but the Onyx app has filters on it that you can turn on elevation. You could turn on this. I think I might have watched an Onyx video, explaining how to use their app. So anyway, I turn on there's an acorn filter on there. So when you turn it on, it's got your GPS image of the hunting area that you're in, and it's got the borders on it, private property. That's why I bought the Onyx, because I didn't know there's a bunch of farms that surround this WMA, and the Onyx shows you property borders, so you don't have to worry about crossing over onto private property. Or I don't even get close to those borders. I know a lot of people hunt borders. I don't even get close to those. I just stay in what I know is the WMA, so I don't get in trouble. So anyway, I turn that filter on, and it shows acorn areas. It's got, like on your GPS, it's got big red squares where there's acorn producing trees. So I hunted this other side of it, and it's like woods right by a field, you always see on the videos. they're hunting the edge of the woods by a field, and the deer comes through the field, and then they shoot the deer. Well, I didn't see any deer in those fields. So I started pulling up the map. I wanted to see other areas. So I noticed that that other access road that I had stumbled upon was right by, well, not right by, it's about 150, 200 yards from a big patch of the acorn producing trees. I know deer love acorns. So I started hunting in this other area. And that's when I actually started seeing deer. Uh, I'd hiked in during bow season. Let me tell you how stupid I am. So during bow season, I'm out there hunting. I'd seen a deer in that one area, but it was way too far off. And I was like, yeah, all right, I found my spot. So I go out. It's my birthday, November 5th. I'm out there, I'm posting up under a tree. I got a little bit of cover in front of me, not a lot. And I'm just sitting there. The sun comes up. It's a beautiful morning. And it's about 8 o'clock in the morning. And I feel my phone vibrate. And I know it's my birthday. So I figure somebody's, texting me happy birthday. So I pull my phone out and it's my mom. So she says, happy birthday, blah, blah, blah. And she says, what are you doing? And I text her back, I'm hunting. I take a selfie of me posted under the tree because, that's what we do. And then I look up and there's a damn doe standing maybe 20 feet in front of me, staring right at me as I'm holding my damn cell phone, taking a selfie. And it's just staring right at me. So I ease my hand down. And then, of course, it bounces out. I mean, it was seconds. It felt like the thing stared at me for 20 minutes, but it was actually just seconds. And then it bounces off. So there I am holding my damn phone. And the deer comes right up to say hello and wish me happy birthday. And then it bounced. So that was my first real close encounter. Then my second very, very close encounter. So bow season goes on. That's the only deer that I see during bow season. But I've seen 2 deer now in this area. So I'm like, yeah, I know where they're at. Because, once you see a couple, then you know what the hell you're doing. So anyway, post up underneath this tree. I bought me one of those tornado stools that you can twist out. And it's real life. It's great in one of my backpacks. So I'm sitting on this tornado stool. I'm leaned against a tree, and it's rifle season. I got my rifle, and I'm all posted up. When I'd walked in, as I'm walking in, I notice I get all set up underneath this tree, and then all of a sudden I see 2 lights. One's about 50 yards and an angle off to my right. The other one is about the same distance, but it's off to my left, and they're just like, I can't tell if they're moving, but they're looking at me, and I'm looking back underneath this tree. And I sat there for like 2 or 3 minutes just staring at these damn lights, and then the lights go out. And I'm like, well, either they turned around when they seen me, or they just stopped. So I didn't know. So I'm leaned against this tree. The sun's just starting to come up. Like, you can make everything out in the woods, but it's not bright. It's just where you can just see. And I'm leaned against the tree and I'm just looking. And then all of a sudden, boom! Right. It wasn't 10 yards to back behind me to my right. This dude shot, and it scared the living shit out of me. I mean, it scared me to death. And then I hear, and I see his deer go running right in front of me. So it had to be standing maybe 10 feet behind a tree off in an angle. Because when he shot, that thing shot across the front of me, maybe 10 feet in front of me. It went 10 yards and dropped right in front of me. And I was like, holy shit. I'm not kidding, dude. It scared the shit out of me. So that was the end of that day, of course. And then I think a week later, I was posted up on my little stool, leaned against a tree. There was nobody else out there around me this day. I didn't see anybody anyway. And it was about 8:30 in the morning. And there's a game trail that's about 50 yards through, it's like thick, a little thick where I'm sitting, but then it kind of thins out and it's got one of those, it's an acorn area, on Onyx. It shows that that's an acorn area, and you could see some shells on the ground, and there's all kinds of sign. It's footprints. There's some scrapes there, some rubs. You could see all that, but it's about 50 yards in front of me. And then it's a little thick where I'm at, but I got a really clear shooting lane, and I can see off, and then, it's probably 180 degrees, and I've got maybe 4 shooting lanes through this thick shit. And I'm leaned against this tree, and I'd walked in. When you hunt public land, man, you got to get there early. Like the sun, I think it showed sunrise at like 6:30 or 6:15 or something. So every morning when I was going in, I would get there, I would give myself enough time to hike to where I wanted to hunt. And then like 30 minutes, the sun would start coming up. And I wasn't getting there early enough. I've had to change spots several times because I would pull up and there'd be 3 or 4 trucks parked there. And I was like, well, I don't know which direction they went. I don't want to bump nothing. So then I would change a spot. So anyway, I started going 2 hours before sunrise, and there were still trucks there. So I back it up 2.5 hours before sunrise, and I'm driving in, and there's 4 trucks behind me following me in. That's 2.5 hours early before sunrise, before legal shooting hours, just to find a spot to start to hike in. It's crazy. It's crazy. During bow season, it wasn't like that. But as soon as muzzleloader hit, it's like it just swelled up with people. There was people everywhere during muzzleloader. So anyway, I'm posted up against that tree, and I'm watching. And I guess I had missed the rut because I never seen any of that type activity. Maybe I didn't miss it, but about 50 feet in front of me when I was hiking in, somebody had hung those scent wicks from a branch. There was one like 50 feet off to my right. Then there was another one like 30 feet off to my left. And when I had my binos out and just scanning across, I actually seen those hanging from those branches. And at first I was like, what the hell is that? Then you really focus on it and you're like, oh, that's one of those damn scent wicks. So anyway, I'm sitting against this tree and I hear this crunch. And I just barely turn my head, maybe 6 inches. It couldn't have been much. And there's this Forky looking at me. I mean, he's looking dead at me, right in the eyes. And he's about 5 foot from me. And he's looking at me dead in the eyes. And this deer screamed so loud, dude. Like, I didn't even know deer screamed. He screamed so loud. He jumped back like 15 fucking feet. Like, he jumped way back. It was like, he jumped way back and then took off. And I was like, what the hell? What I didn't realize that I had done is, remember, I'm going in 2.5 hours before daylight. So I got to wear a headlamp So I started off with my fishing headlamp, which isn't bad, but it's like a orange glow kind of to it. It's not real bright so that it doesn't attract a bunch of bugs. And I couldn't see shit walking through there. I was tripping on shit. I just couldn't see shit. So then I upgraded to this really nice headlamp. It's actually a hunting headlamp. It's got a light on the back so that people know you're in front. I mean, it's really nice, but it is bright as shit and it lights it up. I mean, it lights it up. So when I had turned barely and looked that deer in the face, I was still wearing that fucking headlamp. So to that deer, I looked like a damn cyclops. And that deer was like, what the fuck? Cyclops are real. And then he bounced. I'm not kidding. That deer jumped back. It was so funny, dude. He jumped back so far, but I could just see it in his face. He was like, what the fuck? So anyway, that was one of the funniest things that's happened to me out there so far. But that also wrapped up my deer season. I didn't see anything else. And so that's 3 deer that I've seen this year. Well, last year. Deer hunting. With no success. So rabbit season kicked off in the middle of gun season. But with everybody out there deer hunting, I didn't want to rabbit hunt with everybody deer hunting. But my wife's uncle owns 20 acres in another area. And he said, man, we're ate up with rabbits. Why don't you just come out here and rabbit hunt? And I was like, all right, dude. So one day after work, I grab all my shit. I go out to his house. And I got my second rabbit of my life. Once when I was like 15 years old with my cousin. And then once on my uncle's land. Well, uncle-in-law's land. But so that's my last year wrapped up as far as animals are concerned, harvest animals. So I got 1 rabbit, no squirrels, no turkeys, no deer. So all of last year I got 1 rabbit. And I mean I was putting it in, man. Every weekend. I mean, that's all I can do. I work thirds. So like I'm off right now, but it's also 3:00 in the morning. So I don't flip flop my schedule. Some people do that. I can't do that. It really messes me up. I can't do work nights all week and then days. So I'm only hunting morning hours. I can't hunt evening hours because I'm asleep. So I would put in every weekend from September to January. Every weekend I was hunting something. And you could say it was unsuccessful because I only got 1 rabbit. But man, I'm just learning this shit, you know. And actually, I think I was very successful. I started out not even knowing where to hunt. And now I'm scouting that whole area out there. I mean, I'm walking, I am hiking it and hiking it and hiking it. I'm looking all over. I'm seeing all kinds of signs. I'm checking out new spots, you know, like today, I'm going back out. I'll be squirrel hunting. Our squirrel season is long as shit. So it starts in September and it goes all the way to March. And then it starts back up for the month of May. And then it starts again in September. So our squirrel season is long as shit. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna take that squirrel season. I'm still gonna be in them woods, you know, but I'm gonna try to hike around and find newer areas. You know, on the other shows and stuff that I watch, they're always talking about go where other people don't, hike in a mile, 2 miles. Well, I mean, I don't have a mile to hike in. And the area that I'm hunting has access roads all around it. There's like 5 access roads that come in from every side. And people pull off on this one and then they pull off on that one. So you'll be driving into access road, not even to the parking pad, and people are pulled off on the sides of that so that they don't have to hike, from the parking pad to wherever. So what I'm trying to do is find spots that are a little, you know, not right next to somebody's car. And maybe I can find a spot, where I can deer hunt and it won't be as crowded as it was this past year especially during rifle and muzzleloader. I'm not kidding, man. As soon as muzzleloader kicked off, it was so crowded out there. Like you would see people all over, like walking this way, or you would be like, yeah, I got a good spot. And then the sun would start coming up and you would see blaze orange like 100 yards in front of you. Like, what the hell? I didn't even see him come in. And that's because they're coming in so early. I'm not kidding, man. 4 o'clock in the morning and you got cars following you in. 4 o'clock in the morning, 2.5 hours before sunrise. And there's no camping out there. So it's not like you could go out, camp the night before, get your spot all set up, whatever. No, there's no camping. Oh, and I'm not hunting with a stand. I got my blind that I was using during turkey season, and I'm not sure if I'm going to use it again this year. It's a lot to pack in because of course, I went and I bought 2 turkey decoys because that's what they use on TV, and I didn't get any turkeys coming up to my decoys, and I'm probably doing this shit wrong because I'm still learning how to do the calls. Because you're out there and burp, 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 and you think you sound like a damn turkey. But that turkey probably thinks you sound like an idiot. So anyway, I'm not hunting from a stand. So when I'm hiking in, it's all ground hunting. So I have to look for the trails. I got to look for the sign and then try not to get too close to that, but not too far away. Like I'm trying, man. It's a lot. It's a lot to learn. But when I just had this urge, like, and I'm really loving it, And of course, I still love my damn video games. Hell, I was playing Assassin's Creed just a little while ago. That's still my core. Like when I grew up, I seen the video games coming out. I was there when Nintendo NES dropped. That was actually our first game system that I owned myself. My mom bought it for me for Christmas when it first came out. I was like in the 6th grade, and I loved that shit. The actual first video game I ever played was an Atari because my grandmother had an Atari with like 200 games. And whenever we would go to my grandma's house, she would let me play the Atari. If she wasn't playing the Atari, because she didn't own it for us, she owned it for her. But then the NES came out. I've had NES, Sega. When Sega first came out, my mom got me a Sega for Christmas. Sega CD. I don't know if y'all know what Sega CD is, but it was actually the first disc game player. I had one of those when it came out. The Dreamcast. They all burn up, but I had one. And then, of course, PlayStation. And then PS2, 3, and 4. Now, 5's out, but I haven't dropped the money on a 5 yet because I've been buying so much damn hunting shit that I can't justify it to my wife to go and spend another $600 on a video game system when I'm supposed to be out in them damn woods. So anyway, man, this is the podcast. It's me learning how to hunt, and maybe you could learn with me. Maybe you're sick and tired of being a damn couch potato. You get out in them woods, and it's just something inside, dude. It's something primal about being out there. And I know there's a bunch of controversy over hunting, and it's crazy because there's not that much over fishing, but there's a bunch over hunting. And the only thing I can think of is because fish don't have eyelashes. People only get upset when you kill something with eyelashes. They don't care if you squish bugs. They don't care if you catch fish. Like, they don't care about none of that. But if that thing blinks at you, then people get pretty upset. But people have been doing it since the beginning of time. It's who we are. And I'm embracing it. And if this is a journey that you want to, go on yourself, if you want to just laugh at all my failures, maybe we can just learn together. So tune in next time, man. I'll see you out in them woods. Well, I hope you enjoyed this week's episode. Don't forget to like, subscribe, rate, review, leave a comment, all that stuff you got to do. Tune in next week for a whole new episode.